Hey folks, welcome to Wolpin's Gaming Den. Today we have an exciting set of unboxing. We're going to be taking the shrink off Ankh, Gods of Egypt. This is the new Kickstarter delivery made out by Simon for the Kickstarter backers here in Toronto in Canada. We basically got these very recently. I got mine last week. And I'm really excited to crack into it and see what we have inside all of these different boxes. Now, the pledge that I had basically gives me obviously the base game itself. So in this video, we'll have a look at what's inside this particular box. I also had the playmat, so we'll have a quick look at this. I don't remember this one, but apparently I have a whole bunch of extra sphinxes, so we'll have a look at this as well. We'll have a look at this particular board. And we will look at the box of divine offerings, which has a bunch of components, upgrades or extra stuff. I'm not really sure for the base game itself. So for this video, we're going to crack into all of these stuff. But if you want to see more things to do with Ankh, I will have more videos that will go out over the next few days, which will cover the Tomb of Wonders, which, if I recall correctly, is all the stuff that represents the Kickstarter extras or exclusives for the different backers. So there's going to be a separate video that's going to cover this. And we also have the box for the Pharaoh expansion in here as well. So I will have separate videos that will go out covering Tomb of Wonders and Pharaoh in separate videos. If you're checking this out at any point in the future, perhaps it's already live, the link is probably going to be down there, so you can hit that and check it out if that's something that's of interest to you. If not, keep an eye out for it. I should update the links in the description box over the next few days, so those are going to be lying pretty soon. But in the meanwhile, I'm going to move these aside, and then we're going to crack into all of these different things and see what we have inside. All right, folks, and we're back. So we're going to start cracking into the base game itself for Ankh, Gods of Egypt. And as we can see here, it's definitely quite a bit of a thick box. So there's going to be quite a few pieces and components, minis, no doubt, in here. So we're going to see what all of those are all about. But as we can see, or you may already be familiar with, it's a game that's designed by Eric M. Lang with art by Adrian Smith, published by Command Games and Guillotine Games. And you may already be familiar with the artwork up on the box over here, but it's definitely a very attractive style, sort of like, you know, playing with the fantasy theme of Egyptian gods, as it were. And on the back, we get to see what hopefully we will get inside the box as well. So, well, I mean, this being a Command game, there's obviously going to be a bunch of minis. So we're going to crack into those and see what's happening in there. Looks like there's going to be a bunch of cards as well, a bunch of counters and tokens, main game board, player boards, and probably a whole lot more. What does it say for description here? It says, take control of one of the legendary gods of Egypt, each with unique game-changing powers, and lead your devotees, in an epic conflict for eternal life. So it's definitely a theme that appeals to me quite a bit. It is, of course, the third game in the spiritual trilogy of Blood Rage, followed by Rising Sun, and now Ankh, Gods of Egypt. So all dealing with sort of like fantasy themes in different eras. Blood Rage, of course, was related to the Vikings. Rising Sun to the Japanese culture. Well, very mythical, fantasy driven, of course. And this is to do with the Egyptian one. So I'm excited to see what we have in here. Let's crack into this and see what we have inside the box. Now, with the shrink off, the cover art certainly looks very attractive. The color scheme is definitely something that I quite like. So let's crack into it. The Command historically, of course, does really good components on their game. So I'm really positive about what we can see with this. And of course, we have standard inside of the lid. So we're going to move that aside. Free Command stuff, I guess. I haven't really tried that out ever, so we'll see what that looks like. We have two books in here, rule book followed by scenario. So let's maybe start off with the rule book. And this, of course, is the artwork that we see on the box itself, introduction. We see all the different components that we can expect to see in the game, and looks like there's going to be a whole bunch of these. Basic concepts talks about the game board, adjacency rules, monuments, figures, central dashboard, God dashboard, devotion, battle cards, before going into the setup. So good coverage on the basic concepts for the game. Then we have setup, rules for winning the game, gameplay, and now we go into the different actions you can take, and you can move figures, summon figures, gain followers, and unlock Ankh power. So lots of visuals. As you can see here, there's a little amount of text, but there's a lot of it that's covered up by images of the game board itself. So even though the rulebook looks thick, it's not going to be very text heavy thick, as it were. Control Monument, Caravan, Conflict, Merging Gods certainly has been sort of like a mechanic that's been talked about quite a bit, with some criticism, but I'm going to try the game for myself before I make up my mind on that, so we'll see how that works. Forgotten Gods, Cards and Powers. Yeah. And then on the back we have the rule summary with the turn sequence, actions, events, and victory. Important reminders, gods can never be killed. Well, good to know. Figures and monuments in different regions are not adjacent to each other. Well, that's a bit of a detail to remember, but thick rule book. But I will say that it's visually looks quite appealing and hopefully something that's not that hard to get into. So that's the rule book for Ankh. Next up, we have the scenario book. Now, I don't know if this is sort of like a campaign style thing or just different maps or setups that you can play around with. So we have the Middle Kingdom for 2 to 5 players, and it gives you sort of like the setup you can use for the different players. You have the Old Kingdom. There's some flavor text that's going on with these 2 capitals, the Delta Bounty, Dynastic Unrest, Great Rebuilding. This one, of course, supports 2 players, so that's a bit of a unique thing from the earlier 2 games in the trilogy, which Blood Rage, I think, maybe played 2, I forget. I've always played that at a higher player count, and Rising Sun certainly did not support 2, so this one, by the look of things, does. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays across all those different player counts, but the scenario book is, by the look of things, not really a campaign book, but rather different setups that you can play with that has flavor text associated with them. So a great way to try out different ways of playing the game. So that's good stuff generally. Now we have what looks like a whole bunch of different cardboard counters, maybe, or the game board as well, perhaps. Let's crack into it. I'm going to move this to the side so that we can crack into it and see what we have in here. So let's do that right now, shall we? All right. So, well, I mean, might as well look at this because it's just lit out. Looks like we have some sort of a devotion track that you're going to be moving up on. And it's not part of the game board. It's not cardboard. It's thick stock paper. Well, thick-ish stock paper. So that's something that you're going to get in here. Let's crack on with the rest of the stuff in this and see what we have. Oh. All right, finally, there we go. Now we have an action board, again, same stock paper, and you have this on the back end. So it looks like you have those 4 different actions we had to look at over here with perhaps some sort of a marker that's going to be moving across, and you have things split out by the play counts over here as well. And an events track. It says end of game here, so I'm guessing maybe it starts from here and goes around. So we'll see how that works. And in a 3-player plus game, this is where sort of like you merge the 2 gods, eliminate gods in red. Well, righto. Okay, so again, looks like something else that perhaps goes to the side of the main game board. So that's there. Now we have these 2 punch boards with the tokens and counters, so let's check out the quality on those. And these are all punching out quite well. Thickness is not bad. It's all right. I mean, there've definitely been thicker punch boards, but it certainly seems to be good quality, and it's all punching out well, so no issues or complaints from me on that front. I'm not going to go through all of these, but we'll move that to the side. More counters, more of these tokens. I don't know what these are. These are obviously bigger tokens. Maybe they serve some sort of function. Who knows? We'll figure that out when we go through the rule book. But punch board all seems to be working as you would hope, so that's good. Now we have the game board, so we need to make a bit of space for this. Let's move things off to the side. I'm expecting something that's perhaps not small, so we need to have what space we can make for it. Now, is it double-sided? It is not. So on the back end, obviously, it's all black. And then here we have the main game board. And hopefully this can fit in the whole board. It almost does. I think it does. So that's good. So you don't really have a lot of tracks or anything going around the board. There is no point track going around. There is no action track or whatnot. But of course, you will have these that we had a look at earlier, which perhaps will go to the side of these game play area, as it were. From an artwork point of view, it's all right. I mean, I've definitely seen boards with more detailed artwork on it, but this is not bad. In fact, if you zoom in, you can see, there's a good level of detail going on in here. Even here, you might just sort of like look at that as water and forget it, but there are patterns. There are patterns in here, although I'm not really sure if the patterns add up to something or not, but it's all right. It's not too bad. Over here, you can see what looks like a face of a bird, Sphinx. Yep, there we go. And yeah, so good level of detail overall. Yeah, and standard, well, not standard, but I mean definitely on the bigger end. Not the biggest board I've seen, but I would say big enough is maybe a good way of describing it. Right, now let's bring the main game box back. So this, just given my past experience with Command games, I'm going to assume are all the miniatures. So we're going to look at these maybe at the very end, save that for something we can come back to in a few minutes. Now we have a bunch of cards that maybe we want to go through and see what's happening in here. Right. Okay, now these are tarot sized. So these are, I think these are tarot sized. On the back end, okay, so we have two different kind of cards. We have what looks like reference cards. And yeah, I think these are reference cards because they kind of look like reference cards. So you have 5 of these. You have the different actions you can do. And then on the flip side, gives you the steps of the battle. Select and reveal cards, build monuments, resolve plague, monument majority, battle resolution. And you get 5 of these in here. And then in the base game, at least, it looks like we have these 6 gods. Now, are these the gods? Cat Mummy, Setet, Mummy, Apip, Apip? I'm not really sure how to pronounce it. Giant Scorpion, Androsphinx. I don't think these are the gods. Guardians. These are the Guardians. All right. And apparently, maybe these are by level. These are 3, these are 2, these are 1. So maybe these are by level. Maybe I'm just guessing. Right, now we have this set of cards. Let's see what we have in this one. Right. Well, these might be the back of the cards. You have artwork for Isis. You have artwork for Osiris. For Ra, Anubis, Amun. So these look like these might be associated with the gods themselves. You have the cycle of Mat, Chariots, Miracle, Drought. So these might be cards you're playing on your turn, doing some sort of an action. I think, yep, looks like it. And it looks like each one of the gods maybe gets a very similar set of hands, because I do see some of the cards repeating. Like you can see there, because that one came up for, I guess, pretty much all of the gods. But artwork on these is pretty decent. Not bad. Not bad at all. In fact, I'm just going to quickly bring out the set of cards we had a look at earlier, just so that I can give you guys a better look at the artwork on these. So this was the Cat Mummy. This was Setet. This was Mummy. Apip, one of those two, I hope. Giant Scorpion and Androsphinx. So I definitely like the art style on this so far. It certainly is up my wheelhouse, and these seem to have a good level of detail on them. Functionally, they seem to be fine as well, although there's quite a bit of text on some of these, so I'm not sure if maybe once you get to know the game, you can just look at the symbols and know automatically or intuitively what these do, or maybe you need to actually read through these more often than not. So we'll figure those out once we get a few playthroughs in. But these are the cards, so we'll put those off to the side. Now it looks like we have the different boards for the gods in suitably large sized, well, I mean, technically, I guess these are not cards, these are boards, but these are not cardboards, so there's that. I hope I'm not going to end up damaging this. All right, it's coming off. We're getting there, people. We're getting there. Okay, there we go. We got there. Better late than never. Now, so we have Amun the Hidden. Ankh powers and Artha powers the same. Temple attuned, pyramid. Yeah, they look very similar. So this side of the board, they look identical or near identical. At least I can't really tell the difference at first glance. But you do get the unique stuff on this side over here, so that's good. So you have and flavor text with the god as well. So let's go through this one by one. So we have Amun the Hidden, who has mysterious forms, and nice artwork. And then of course you have a good amount of flavor text in here. You have Anubis the Embalmer, Judge of the Dead, right? And I think this is the guy, or maybe one of the guys we have in the front. Art on the box itself. You have Ra, the sun and light, who has radiance. Again, this is the artwork we see on the back. You have Osiris, god of the dead, gateway to the underworld, and this is the artwork for him. And then we have Isis, queen of the throne, protectress, and this is the artwork for her. So how many of these do we have? We have 5. So I don't know if the game goes up to 5 players. Maybe it does. And it looks like you get 5 gods in the base game box. So does it go up to 5? It does. So here we can see 2 to 5 players plays in roughly an hour and a half. So if you're playing a full game of 5 players, you're basically going to be using all of these. So I guess the Kickstarter stuff and the expansions with the other gods will certainly come in handy with those. And here we have, I'm guessing these are the merged cards because it says merged with the moon on it. So if you're merging with the other gods, which as we saw in the rulebook, and some of you may have already heard from reviews and other videos and whatnot, is a pretty talked about mechanic in the game. You may love it, you may hate it, but there's no denying the fact that it is there. Right, let's see what these do and look like. So you have merged with the moon, mysterious forms, and then on the back end when 2 cards merged, gives you a reference of what happens. Merged with Anubis, same stuff. Merged with Ra, merged with Osiris, merged with Isis. So you get 5 of those. If your god is, I'm guessing, merging with one of these, you pick up the appropriate one, and that is that. So right, so I think that pretty much covers the cards and all of those things that come in the box. Now, of course, we still have to get through the miniatures, and that's one of the bigger, more fun things we want to do. So let's bring that box in. Let's move this off to the side and have a look at what we have in here. So I'm gonna open this out. Bring this out. Right. Okay, so we have everything that's in that box out here. You get a bunch of different plastic bases. I'm guessing for the different play colors, you have large size ones and smaller size ones. I'm guessing you're going to be sticking on the miniature, these onto the miniatures that you're going to be using. These are plastic tokens. I'm guessing, and I'm guessing these are in each individual player color. Yeah, and this is these are engraved, so that's good. That's a nice little touch. Now we have this. I'm not really sure what this one does. It looks like we have a bunch of different standees. So that's, well, that's a standee. That's pretty standard. But we have this, which may be a marker of some sort that you're moving on the game board. I don't know. Right. Now we have these miniatures. They all look to be the same. So I'm just going to bring out a few of these and maybe we can have a closer look at it. And these are camels? Yeah. But you know what? I mean, these are small. I mean, you know, hopefully you can make that out based on how many of these that I have in my hand and the size of my hand and whatnot. But there's certainly, sorry about that, guys. There's certainly a good level of detail for something that's quite so small. This is very, very nicely done. Yeah, I like these. These are pretty neat. Right, so I'm going to move these back into the bag. Now it looks like we get the miniatures based on the different play colors because these are color coded. So we'll just have a look at each one of these. And the sculpts in the same color are the same, so we don't need to go through all of them. But we'll have a look at one of each that will hopefully tell us what's happening with what, right? That's this guy, and again, good level of detail for what we have in here. So hopefully you guys can make that out. Right? It does have good level of detail. I'm really happy with the quality that I can see, at least at first glance. It's I mean, painting these is going to be a bit more difficult because it's going to require a bit more of an expert hand, just to make sure that you're doing justice to all the different details. But yeah, this is quite nice. Very, very nice. Very, very happy with what I'm seeing here. Right? All right, so that's everything that we get over here. We're going to move these off to the side. And now we come to some of the bigger stuff, which appropriately gets its own lid. Now these are the 5 gods, I'm assuming, so we're going to come to these at the very end. But let's look at some of these guys first. And these are not small. These are definitely not small. And you can certainly see sort of like the guy with his hands crossed in there. Again, good level of detail for the miniature, something that definitely wants you, screams to be painted. Feels pretty sturdy in my hand, well, reasonably sturdy. So that's that. This is the same of that one. Looks like you get a few of each of these, so we're just going to look at each unique one. Nice. Well, he's got stuff coming out of his mouth. It looks like he's got 2 snakes coming out of his mouth. Better not mess with that guy, I guess. Right. Right. Oh, you know what? I think I know what this is. These are the guardians we were looking at on the cards. I think these are. I think that's what these are. These are the guardians. Very nice. Oh, he's not out for a midnight walk. Or maybe he is. Who knows? Who knows what these guys are up to when you're not looking. Right. This is very good stuff, guys. And now, of course, we have the Egyptian gods themselves. Just going to zoom in for a closer look. Very, very good level of detail on these. Very happy with how they look, to be honest. Well, these are going to look very nice once you put them out on the board. Suitably menacing. I think this was Anubis, maybe? I forget. Yeah. Nice. Very nice. There we go. We'll do a closer pan and scan. And then I assume this is the largest one that we had in there, I think. You can see the whole bunch of different devotees at the bottom, and him looking suitably worship me mode on in there. So this is very good level of detail, guys. Very, very nice. Right. So I think with that, we've seen everything that comes in the base box for Ankh Gods of Egypt. And I'm just going to pack these off for a minute, and then we'll come back and have a look at the other boxes in a second. All right, and we're back. So that's been sorted and put aside. Now we're going to look at these different things that we have in here. So let's maybe start off with the smaller box and see what we have in this. Now, I did take a quick peek inside because this was never sealed when this came in. So I do have a sense of what's in here, but we're gonna bring these out anyway. And these are the same things all over. So just looking at a couple of these, well, even one of these should do the trick. So these are the sphinxes. I don't know if that's the appropriate plural, but that's there. They're hollowed out on the inside. Again, I don't remember seeing these pieces in the base game box. I'm not really sure how these work from a gameplay standpoint, because I couldn't identify components that are replaced by these guys in here. But we'll figure that out once we get into the game itself. So that's what you get in this, and we get how many? Oops, these are all just falling off. We get 5 of these in this particular box. 3 here on the table, and 2 that went flying off onto the ground. So you have those. Now let's look at, and this is actually, I gotta tell you, this is quite heavy. Almost as heavy as the base game box, which is funny. But right, let's have a look at this one next. Now again, this was not in the base game box, and I couldn't identify anything in the base game box that corresponded to this. So I don't know if this is meant as an expansion or a Kickstarter extra or whatever the hell this is, as it is unwilling to come out by the look of things. Oh, okay, we finally coaxed it out. So unlike the other boards we saw in that box in there, this is not stock paper. This is actual cardboard, so that's good. And you have the space for political deck at the bottom. You have 4 different spaces in here. You have the Chamber of Law, War Room, Code of Civil Affairs, and the Throne Room. So I don't know how these fit into the base game, but they are there. There we go. So we'll move this off to the side. And then lastly, we have, of course, the Divine Offerings, which we'll be looking at in this video. The playmat is still off to the side, so we're going to be looking at that at the very end, because it is not small. So let's crack into this guy over here. But before we do, we get to see the god, who I think we've seen in the base game box. And it's obviously a smallish box size, but man, is it heavy. It is heavy. Right, okay, so moving this off to the side. Right, let's crack into this. Again, standard inside of the lid. Now, so the first thing that we get to see are these plastic tokens. So if we saw one of each of these in the base game box, but there were, of course, a bunch of cardboard counters that were related to these. So it looks like these all get upgraded in here into plastic pieces in your own color. So that's good. I mean, seems like a reasonable upgrade to have. Plastic is generally better than cardboard pieces. So you have that. So you have that in 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 6. Well, was it 6? Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 6 different colors. And it looks like there's more where that came from. So I guess we're going to be seeing what's happening with that. Let's crack into this. And we have this in yellow, we have this in whatever this color is, and whatever this color is, and whatever these colors are. So there's, yeah. So I'm guessing all of these are for the other different gods that you would potentially get in either the Kickstarter extras or the expansions and whatnot. So you've got plastic pieces for any god you want covered in there. So that's good. Right now, we get, what do we get here? We get these guys in cardboard form, and pretty decent chunky cardboard, I have to say. So these are the merged cards that we had a look at in the base game box, and these were cards or stock paper, but over here we have them in cardboard. So you have Amun, Anubis, Ra, Osiris, Isis. These were from the base game, so there's the 5 there. And it looks like these might be from different expansions and extras. So you have Thoth, Horus, Hathor, Bastet, Set, Ptah, Ta, or something, and Sobek. So hopefully I have the expansions I need to make good use of these. So hopefully that's there. Now I'm going to move this to the side. And of course we get the gods in cardboard. So all the, again, the ones that we had to look at that were sort of like stock paper, you now have them in cardboard. And it also looks like these punch out, so you can put down different tokens in here to know which abilities you've unlocked or actions you've done or some such thing. But again, it's a nice bit of upgrade to have, and again explains why we had all that heft in the game box itself, because that's a lot of cardboard. And you also have the full artwork on the back, so that's good. Yeah. The flavor text is, of course, laid out a little bit differently because you're going to be punching out, so there's going to be holes on these sides. So the flavor text now goes on to the bottom over here, but I'm not going to go through all of these. You have all of these in there. So I think it's a nice little upgrade to have. And depending on sort of like the game that you're playing, you can of course just use the ones that you need and not sort of like move around with the ones that you don't, because they are not going to be light, I can promise you. Yeah, so that's what you get in this particular box for Divine Offerings. Now I'm going to move these aside in a minute, and we'll come back and have a look at the playmat. And last but not the least, we have the playmat. So we're going to lay this out and see what's happening in here. Now this is double-sided, so we're going to have a look at both of these sides. And I'm just going to start off with this one because this looks a lot more familiar to some of the stuff that we've seen in the base game itself. So as you can see here, the playmat is certainly, definitely, absolutely much larger than the game board that you get inside the box itself. Now this area corresponds to what we had in the game board. So, and artwork wise, it looks to be pretty much identical. But then again, we had sort of like a cardboard, not cardboard, sorry, rather a stock paper track for this on the side. So it looks like that's going to be the devotion track over here, which looks a bit different. It's thinner, much taller, but this is going to be obviously part of the mat in here on the right hand side over there. And then if I just scroll this across on the left hand side, we get to see that action track over there, which we remember this was its own sort of like a board, which was again stock paper that we saw in the base game box. So you have the events, you have the actions, and we did not see anything corresponding to this, but it's easy to understand because we did see these Guardian cards in the game box, and it looks like this is where you can have them in the play area. So it just makes it organizing it a little bit easier for yourself. But overall, certainly looks very attractive. Colors don't feel muted. There's definitely a lot of brightness, things that pop. So all that is good stuff in this particular mat. So that's on this side. Now we're going to flip this over and have a look at what we have on the other side. And a lot of it will feel familiar because you still got the same play area over here. So none of that has changed as far as this is concerned. You still get the devotion track up on the side. That hasn't changed, or at least on the surface of it, looks pretty much the same. Over here, half of it will feel familiar because you still get the action area over there. You get the events. But over here, if you remember, we saw that extra board with sort of like the Chamber of Law, War Room, Code of Civil Affairs, and Throne Room. So that's now in here, along with the area for the political decks, or area for the Guardian cards is not on this side. But of course, if you're playing on the other side, that's basically where your difference is coming in. If I can just make this side-by-side comparison over here. The two sides don't seem to differ based on player count. At least, again, I have not gone through the rules myself, so I cannot say that conclusively. Take that with a pinch of salt. But it looks like it's based on what modules you may be using in the game, or which ones you want to have face up, or whatever it might be. But this and this is basically where the two sides of the playmat differ. Otherwise, they all seem to be pretty much identical. And but overall, I'm very, very happy with how this playmat looks, feels, and plays. I'm going to be getting my first playthrough of Ankh happening in a couple of days, probably by the time the video goes up. But if not, I'd definitely love to share my thoughts on that with you guys. But in the meanwhile, that's everything we get in the box for Ankh, Gods of Egypt. In the base game box, Divine Offerings, the Sphinx stuff, and of course the playmat. Very, very happy with the quality of the components. The miniatures in particular were definitely the standouts, but the cards were good, artwork feels good, and I'm very happy with what I've seen in here. I haven't gone through the other boxes yet, but I'll be doing that shortly. So as I mentioned earlier at the start of the video, if that's something you guys are interested to check out, I will have those going up soon. It's going to be in the description box in a couple of weeks. But you can also subscribe to the channel, which I would highly recommend, so that you can stay up to date when and as they come up. I will also have a tutorial for Ankh going up by the end of this month, hopefully, if timing permits. So keep an eye out for that as well. And for all things Ankh, all things related to unboxings, tutorials, and video games, if that's your thing as well, subscribe to Wolfman's Gaming Den. There's more of this good stuff coming along. So thanks for watching in the meanwhile, and I'll see you guys at the next one. Take care.